Fuck my shoes, so. Fuck. Recap, I died last time, kind of just rage quit a little bit because it was super late. Bada bing, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. So cool seeing this shit kind of like. Huh. Balls in the gate, let's go. Dead ass. It reminds me of what you told me about Putin. Putting it in your mouth. That wasn't. To all my English people, J J J J J J. That means yes in Spanish. What was I doing? I know how to fight a fucking battle. Gay, 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 gay. Alright. What's up? What's up, dude? You look at my tight skinny pants, my longer hair, my beautiful mustache. Gnocchi, 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 gnocchi. Alright, so last time I came through here, I got my ass rocked by some goblins. He has nothing on him. That motherfucker's over there. Nah, you can use controller. Well, it's been like that for a minute for like PC players and now PS5 players. Xbox is getting later this year, but
Haven't seen that game in years.
oh shit. What's up, my guy?
Scram!
Alright, that's all? Alright, cool. Yeah, I fucked up my shit, so I am gonna scram. Take my squad. Take my squad. I got this flamboyant vampire guy. I got this cool paladin guy with one glass eye. And I got this girl that's super mean to me because she's just hiding secrets and shit like that. Look, she even look my way. Alright, cool. What's up? Okay.
Well met.
Yo, yeah, her Cyberpunk is like really good. Oh damn. I'm definitely gonna play that, but I have so many games to play. It's holiday season almost. Let's see what's down this road. problem, brother. No problem. Have a good night, man. Oh, fuck. I have to fight some mad people over here.
Goblins ahead.
A wardrobe. One of those can summon fighters far and wide.
Yeah, so we're gonna just skip that. We'll go through here. Oh!
Watch how you go. There's a trap.
I wasn't paying attention. Oh my god, I'm about to die. Alright. Hold on, guys. Hold on.
I'm ready.
Yeah, you gotta heal me.
Take you.
Did she give me more damage? Oh.
Take you.
She's giving more fucking damage, bro. What the hell?
Take you.
How are you on?
Never
Oh,
a dull
okay.
moment.
I was confused on the system, on the point system. Oh. Alright, guys, we're gonna have to jump. Whoopee!
Trap. Be cautious.
Jesus Christ.
Watch how you go. There's a trap.
What's wrong with that stupid ass shit? Gunzo. You can't attack, but Ghost just walk right fucking by.
Where's the rest of the lads at? Sort of getting curled out their cranks. Roll touche! Touche!
Oh, they getting lit. What's up?
Looking at a future true soul, you are. Boss Ragslin says I'm next in line.
Alright.
Boss Ragslin, eh? Must be the goblin in charge.
Thanks for the reference. How about you, buddy?
And an old order I'm clean off. So much for the flaming fist, eh? You ain't here? We sacked Joaquin's Rest and left it to burn. Drow flinging magic, gnolls snapping off heads. Inn's nothing but a pile of ash by now. Glorious.
Yeah, they're bloodthirsty.
Bunch of prisoners got towed to Moonrise. City snobs mostly. But the Flaming Fist? pile of smoking corpses.
Alright.
You ain't know the broken road? Nah. I'll tell you real slow like, so you don't miss it.
Alright. Alright.
North. What about the priestess?
Why the hell not? It's a priestess gut! Blessed be to gut! Tribe? Tribe!
Okay. Do it.
Something the matter?
No.
What can I say? They were eye-catching. Consider me an art lover.
Me too. Woo. Teen Titans, fight!
Hear my voice. Obey my command.
Never.
The voice is irresistible. You recognize the overwhelming authority that you've used on others, only infinitely stronger, and turned against you. Your vision clouds, leaving you in a dark, featureless shadowscape. Nothingness in every direction. Then there are three figures before you. An armored male elf, exuding power and command. A handsome younger man with a quick, easy smile. And a pale young woman with even paler eyes.
I look fucking.
Are my chosen. They speak for me. Aid their search for the prism, and you will be worthy to stand beside them in my presence.
Oh.
You feel energy pulsing from the artifact, lifting the pain from you, pushing the voice away.
My power grows. My forces gather. The reckoning draws.
What the fuck?
Don't give me that look. I don't know what just happened any more than you do. We should keep going.
Don't lie to me, girl.
I don't know what that toy of hers is, but I'm glad it's on our side.
Of course, you freeloader.
It's nothing. I swear.
Stop lying. Alright, 10. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Tell me the truth.
I don't know. Not exactly. All I know is it's important I get it back to Baldur's Gate. At any cost.
For what reason?
I suppose, if we're to continue together, I may as well tell you. I serve Shah. My home is a secret cloister in Baldur's Gate. A group of us was sent to retrieve the artifact. Now I'm the only one left. I can't afford to fail.
Is that
I
so
can't tell
hard?
you anymore. This mission required utmost secrecy. We all submitted to having our memories suppressed so that we couldn't betray Shah's confidence. If I reach my contact in the city, I'll have my memories restored. Until then, I have to guard the artifact with my life.
No problem.
There. You have the truth, for all it's worth.
That's all good.
Let's continue.
A Shah worshipper? Not my usual quarry. Nor my usual ally.
True. I didn't think you'd react so pragmatically. Perhaps I should have told you sooner.
Dead ass. For reals, for reals.
Gladly.
Be honest with me. Straight up. For party my level.
That's curious. Yeah, it's packed too tight. They'll need a shovel.
Motherfucker. We out. I don't give a fuck.
Hellsfire. She's coming.
Kinda hot.
Well, you've been naughty. And you know what happens when you're naughty. You flatterer. Why, if I had a warm heart, I'm sure it would be skipping. Call me Mizora. I'm Will's patron, the fount of his power. My pet's been unruly,
His
and
pet.
his leash needs a yank. We had a deal, Will. But Karlak's still breathing. He's the Blade of Frontiers. Devil's plaything, just doesn't have the same ring. Speaking of...
Will burns in the fires of Avernus. The lightning storms of Dis strike his flesh. His soul passes through each layer of the hells, gaining their essence and their torment.
Ooh, my boy's strong. Oh no! He's a demon with a crop top.
That's better.
What the hells have you done?
A promise broken, a price paid. You know the terms. Get used to the new form, pet. There's no going back. Some magic even I can't undo. Now, let's see how the frontiers fare without their precious blade. Keep an eye on him, will you? I'll be keeping mine on you.
Oh, and Will,
Don't forget, our pact still stands. Ta-ta.
Oh shit, this drama.
Well met. I am Raphael. Very much at your service. Why, I never. You're paranoid, aren't you? Must
Boy,
be
I'll
the
cook you.
surroundings. Rather bleak and lonesome. One feels so exposed. This quaint little scene is decidedly too middle of nowhere for my tastes. Come. There, middle of somewhere. The House of Hope, where the tired come to rest and the famished come to feed lavishly.
This is
Go
too
on,
odd.
partake, enjoy your supper. After all, it might just be your last.
Alright, motherfucker, you about to die.
Are you not entertained?
Alright.
Well, far be it from me to disappoint.
Oh shit, another demon?
What's better than a devil you don't know? A devil you do. Am I a friend? Potentially. An adversary? Conceivably. But a savior? That's for certain. Because my compassion is boundless. I stride among the needy, giving comfort where I can. And you're in dire need. One skull, two tenants, and no solution in sight. I could fix it all like that. Oh, that's disappointing. I prefer it when my clients put up a fight. Only to realize victory was never an option. Try to cure yourself. Shop around. Beg, borrow, and steal. Exhaust.
Back again. Back a fucking again. Oh my god, it's so dumb 60. Might as well play Starfield. Okay. I'll do this round one more time.
Goblins ahead.
A wardrobe. One of those can summon fighters far and wide. Trap. Be cautious.
brother. Let's go.
Watch how you go. There's a trap.
Not funny. Alright, jump to this.
Step cat. There's a trap.
These big boys decide to face themselves. Let us not feel.
The voices iris and vision clouds, leaving you in a dark, featureless shadowscape. Then there are three figures before you. An armored male elf, exuding power and command. A handsome young... You feel energy.
My power grows.
Don't give me that.
I don't know what that toy of hers is, but I'm glad it's on our side.
It's nothing. I swear.
Come on, roll a good one. Yeah, let's go.
I don't know. Not exactly. I suppose a group of us was... I can't... If... There.
A Shah worshipper.
Forever I do. Secrecy is... I'm not... Though perhaps that might change. If you can show an open mind. All we can do is try, I suppose. There's nothing...
A powerful three figures in the vision, the chosen are searching for it. With the cultist's aid, it will not be... You have evaded them so far, thanks. You still do not know what it even is.
Out of the question. This is my mission. I wouldn't quite say that.
Alright.
That's curious.
I need a shovel to dig this up.
Hell's fire. She's coming.
Well, and you know what happens when you're naughty. You call me Mazor, and his we had a deal, Will. But Karlak's still breathing. Now, too late, Flower. You'll never...
Will burns in the fires of Avernus.
What the hells have you...
The promise broken. Get used now. Keep an eye on him. I'll be keeping mine. Oh, and Will?
Well met. I am Raphael. Very much at your service. Why, I must be the this. Come. There, middle of somewhere. The House of Hope, where the tired come to rest and the famished come to feed lavishly. Go on, partake, enjoy your supper. After all, it might just be your last. Are you not entertained? Well, far be it from me to disappoint.
Alright, that's the last time I'm resetting.
What's better than a devil you don't know? A devil you do. Am I a friend? Potentially. An adversary? Conceivably. But a savior? That's for certain. Come now, why play hard to get when you're in deep over your tadpoled head? One skull, two tenants, and no solution in sight. I could fix it all, like that. Yes. I like it when my clients put up a fight, only to realize victory was never an option. Try to cure yourself, shop around, beg, borrow, and steal. Exhaust every possibility until none are left. And when hope has been whittled down to the very marrow of despair, that's when you'll come knocking on my door. Hope. Such a tease. I've always wondered what a laughing mind flayer sounds like. All those pretty little symptoms, sundering skin, dissolving guts, they haven't manifested yet, have they? One might say you're a paragon of luck. I'll be there when it runs out.
Ah, another. Thy name has been recorded. I shall be here in thy camp for whenever thou hast need of my services.
Who the fuck are you?
Be assured, it is not by choice. There are many answers to that question. None are important. Correct. No. A mending of the threads between life and death. Should thou or any of thy compatriots perish, I will cleave soul to body once more.
Okay.
Such is life. Outrage leading to a singular end.
Okay. Withers. What's up, Mr. Demon Head?
Gods damn her straight back to the hells. Just look at me. I did what was right, and Mazora made me pay for it.
Warlock pets tend to be unforgiving from what you know of them. Will was lucky he didn't face a more severe punishment.
I'd count my lucky stars for it, but I reckon luck is on holiday. I'm only alive because my patron still has use for me. It's Mazora who grants me the power to conjure armor and cast eldritch blasts.
Oh, you're done.
Before I was infected, I could even call hell beasts and summon festering clouds, but I promise you, every thrust of my blade and every flame I sparked was for the good of the coast. I can't utter the terms or circumstances of the pact. I can tell you most all else, but the pact, I'm forbidden, unless Mazora permits it. But I'll say this. The moment I pacted myself to Mazora, I have not regretted for a heartbeat. It was my proudest deed. It was worth the sacrifice. All I can give you on that is my solemn word.
But you're a demon now. Oh. I like the music.
The Grove sported some rather interesting murals, I must say. They just reminded me of something half forgotten. It seemed to depict Lady Shah's warriors in combat. I hadn't known they were active in these parts. You know me. I'm not usually one to elaborate if I can avoid it. They looked like dark justiciars, an elite force among Lady Shah's ranks. Only the very finest proved themselves worthy of the title. What right-minded servant of Lady Shah wouldn't? But it's a distant dream. The Dark Justiciars have been silent for years. Curious to see them depicted in such a place. Perhaps there's more to it. But there's nothing to be done about it just now.
Alright. Let's see, 30 minutes in. Kind of fucking done right now, this game. New game, new game, new game. New game, new game, new game. Let's see, let's see, let's see. What can I play? What can I play? What can I play? I guess I play a little bit of the Indian game first. I'm gonna go smoke some bud real quick. On my brother, my butter. Excuse me. Some cooking, maybe so. All right, I'll be right back. Wait, hold on. Can I do the? Nah, I think this is better.
Uncle. Alright, I've had my fair share of psychopath teachers growing up, but I think my 6th grade math teacher takes the cake. He had a little bit of an anger problem, and on the surface you wouldn't see it. If you seen him in public, you'd be like, oh, look at that guy. He likes Pringles and Miller Lite probably, alright. But if you were a stupid kid in his math class, well, you got to see it firsthand, because he hated stupid children, which is unfortunate because he teaches 6th grade math. He's surrounded by stupid children. All it took is one stupid question and he'd flip his shit. Mr. Roberson, does the percent sign go before or after a number? Anybody else got any stupid fucking questions? Huh? Anybody? I got 29 more bullets here. He was the first teacher I ever heard swear in class, which can be a little jarring the first time you hear it in a school setting. It's the order of operations, Daniel. You can suck my ass if you think subtraction comes before parentheses. What kind of simple bitch are you? Jesus Christ. Like, whoa, wait a minute. Something's not right here. You're a teacher. You're supposed to say happy words. You just had a lot of pent-up frustration. If you could just lay into the occasional kid, just maybe like an uppercut, knock one out every once in a while. But no, this isn't the 1930s, where if a kid gets a wrong answer, you can, like, push a bookshelf on him or something. He'd always intentionally try to find the most nervous kid, too. Make them answer problems on the board, just so he can make you look like a babbling idiot in front of the whole class. Hey, Billy, why are you sweating so much? You're freaking everybody out. Why don't you tell us what you have for problem 3? 12? Yeah, hi, school nurse. If I have Billy pee in a cup, can you give him a drug test? Because he's obviously smoking crack if he thinks the answer's 12! I'm pretty sure he'd just go home at night, crack open 15 beers, and just drink until he couldn't feel anymore. Honey, dinner's done. I made your favorite. Cigarettes and Xanax. How was work today? Fucking kids can't learn how to add fractions, Sharon. God damn it! And sometimes he wouldn't just spaz out on one kid. Sometimes he'd spaz out in the entire class. Like if we were sitting there and he was trying to teach us a new concept, and we were just not getting it, and he's just looking at our blank faces, knowing that not a single goddamn word he's saying sinking in. What the hell's he talking about? This is worse than long division. So one of his favorite things to do was make us copy things out of the math book that we had. All right, little assholes, since you can't comprehend anything except your goddamn Pokemon cards, why don't you get your math books out and copy pages 4 to 96? So we'd have to sit there and like sketch the actual page in the math book. Like the diagrams, the page numbers, the fucking copyright information in the front of the book. But I've never seen him as mad as the day he flipped out on my friend Corey. We're sitting there one day, learning how to add fractions or some shit, and Corey's over there fucking off all day in class like he always does, which makes him a prime candidate to be made an example of by Mr. Roberson. Hey Corey, take your dick out of your hand and tell me what answer you have for the problem on the board. Oh man, just add the numerators together, Corey. It's not that hard. Numerators? Which number's the numerator, Corey? The bottom one? Motherfucker! Oh god, he's gonna kill me! It's simple goddamn addition, Corey. There are first graders who can't even wipe their ass proper. I could do this right now. I don't know the answer. Can you wipe your ass properly, Corey? Not really, no. Corey, get your shit and go up to your first grade teacher and see if she'll let you sit in there and learn. Are you serious? Get the fuck out of my classroom! Now, if we all weren't scared shitless, we would have been losing it right now. Because the look on Corey's face was priceless. So sure as shit, Corey marched up to his first grade teacher's class to sit with a bunch of 6-year-olds to learn basic addition and how to wipe your ass properly. Mr. Roberson sent me up here to learn. Oh, and to ask you why you can't do your fucking job right. Now maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit on how psychopathic he was. He didn't shoot anybody with an M16. But if I am, I'm telling you right now, it's not by much. He was a psychopath, and his teaching methods were a little unorthodox, borderline abusive, you know, whatever. But I tell you what, I learned some goddamn mathematics, that's for goddamn sure.
BruceDude.com
Crushing some wood.
Alright, now everybody knows that, well, working for a living blows. And it especially blows when you have a bad day at work. Now, what do I know about bad days at work? After all, I'm a full-time YouTuber, for Christ's sake. A bad day of work for me consists of, like, me not being able to say the word alright with the correct inflection. Alright! No, that's not right. Alright? No, that's not it either. Alright. I've worked real jobs before. Hell, my first job was being a cook at a pizza place. You really think that was a rootin' tootin' time? Sweating your ass off, making stuffed crust pizzas for drunk people all night long? Yeah, I think I had my fair share of bad days at work, to say the least. But the absolute worst work day that I had was ironically on my day off. And it wasn't just any day off, it was a Friday of all days. And Fridays are the busiest days of the week for pizza places because Fridays produce the most drunk people out of any day of the week. So I was pretty happy to have that day off. But there was a slight catch. The day before, my boss was like, hey, I know it's your day off tomorrow and it's Friday, but we're running a new promotion, and if we get too...
Sorry.
market. My name is Hamza, and there's 3 things that you should know about me. 1, I was born in 1987. 2, I love hip hop. And 3, I'm a horrible boss. I'm a horrible boss because I used to be a horrible employee. Aside from my time in the Canadian Armed Forces, I've never completely cooperated with the rules of my traditional workplaces. The Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 grind just isn't for me. I'll never forget the last time that I was called out for being late at work. It was very early in my career, and I remember showing up one morning at 9:15 a.m., casually strolled in only to find my boss standing beside my desk, arms crossed, tapping his watch in disapproval. Hamza, this is unacceptable. I can't remember the last time you were here before 9. Well, damn. Good morning to you too, sir. Did I miss anything? Now, of course, I knew that I hadn't. I'd been connected to my work in a dozen different ways. Checked my calendar the night before. I'd been on my email all morning. I had my notifications on. Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, or internal messaging system. If my clients or my team wanted to get a hold of me, they would have already done so. And that's when my boss hit me with this. Hamza, stock market opened 15 minutes ago. What did my work have to do with the stock market? This was a marketing agency. I was doing graphic design. I saw what was happening. I was being sacrificed at the altar of office discipline. So I asked a rhetorical question. Did something happen that I should know about? And of course, I knew nothing had happened. I'd been on Twitter all morning, and I looked at the trending topics, and the only thing newsworthy was Kanye West and Kim Kardashian attending a Jay-Z concert the night before. And that's when my boss hit me with this. Hamza, you being late is bad for morale. It looks like you aren't pulling your weight around here. Ooh, that one stung. That one hurt. And that's the moment I decided to quit. The insinuation that I wasn't producing because I wasn't physically tethered to my desk was a bit too much for my pride. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm highly productive. I'm a consummate team player. But apparently I didn't look the part. So rather than go out with a dramatic bang, I left with a little bit of a sneaky whimper. For my last 2 weeks on the job, I would show up early, show up every morning at 8:55 a.m., and I would sit at my desk and do one thing and one thing only. I marathon movies. Yeah. Naturally, I started with The Godfather, great place to start. I made my way over to Star Wars, and what marathon would be complete without The Lord of the Rings? Extended version, of course. Now, every day I would leave at 5 p.m. I'd pass by his desk at 5 p.m. and he'd go like this, Hamza, great job. I literally sat there for 8 hours and I watched movies. I did nothing, but that was enough for my boss. And I swore from that moment onwards, I'd never be managed again. And managers have tried and managers have failed. They've had to modify their management strategies and approaches with me. And it's left me wrestling with the following paradox. Organizations that are growing and achieving scale require management. However, people, myself, yourself, don't like to be managed. Which begs the question, can millennials be managed? Or better yet, should millennials be managed? Now, I mentioned that I was born in 1987, and that situates me firmly within Generation Y. Critics of my generation have been quick to dismiss me as many things. Entitled, lazy, disloyal, unmotivated, selfish. And considering that I quit my job over the fact that I couldn't show up 15 minutes late every single day, I suppose you could say some of those stereotypes are true. But here's the thing. Generation Y now accounts for more than 50% of the global workforce, but we're built for tomorrow's workplace. Because we grew up in an increasingly flat and connected world, we're that much more resourceful, innovative, entrepreneurial, nimble, dexterous, agile. I've got buzzwords for days, y'all. How we work and why we work is fundamentally out of sync with the expectations of the traditional workplace. For instance, I don't just have one employer. I have a portfolio of work. I don't just have one specialization. I have many of them. I don't stay at one place for very long. I do tours of duty. I don't need an office. I'm connected to my work anywhere that I can get Wi-Fi. So why is it that so many of us are still being managed like we work in factories, Now, if you trace back the echoes of this particular configuration of workplaces far back enough, you might actually, well, end up in factories. The Industrial Revolution. This time in our history saw organizations achieving scale. In order to manage this growth, we had to elect, well, managers. In fact, the entire 8-hour workday has its roots in this time. Social reformer Robert Owen proposed that we divide our work into 3 equal parts, or our day, rather, into 3 equal parts. 8 hours for work, 8 hours for recreation, 8 hours for rest, as a way to wrestle back work-life balance, because at that time, we were experiencing a rather adversarial relationship with our employers. By the early 1900s, management had become widely accepted, and by the mid-20th century, we began, for better or for worse, to perfect management. We began to develop theories about it. And one such theorist by the name of Peter Drucker began to notice something. He began to notice something that was a bit of a paradigm shift. He saw that we were moving away from the mere production of goods and the provision of advanced services to the use and manipulation of information. He coined the phrase knowledge work. He said, the most valuable asset of a 21st century institution, whether business or non-business, will be its knowledge workers and their productivity. And so what we need is a new managerial contract. Because when you consider that when all of the value in an organization walks out of the door each evening, the old command and control mindset is not going to work anymore. The existing model doesn't make any sense. It does not make sense for creative agencies. It does not make sense for startups. It does not make sense for think tanks. It does not make sense for publications. It does not make sense for anywhere where the next generation is trying to do creative work, entrepreneurial work, or information-based work. And so why are we doing this? Well, because of tradition. And tradition is easy. Tradition is comforting. Tradition is ultimately limiting. It stifles innovation. It's doing things because that's the way it's always been done. But let me tell you, doing things because that's the way it's always been done is a horrible, horrible reason to continue doing anything. And so it behooves managers of the next generation to develop a focus on management with a distinctly theory Y approach. In order to understand and appreciate theory Y, you first have to understand and appreciate theory X. Theory X assumes a lot of things. It assumes that employees are lazy, that they avoid work, and that they actually dislike work. It's kind of like when your parents assigned you tasks or chores when you were younger, do the lawn, do the dishes, and you'd rather be doing other things. Theory Y assumes the complete opposite. Theory Y assumes that employees are ambitious, that they're self-motivated, that they exercise self-control, and that they actually enjoy their physical and mental duties. And that given the proper conditions, an employer operating within a Theory Y framework can actually help their employees achieve the most elusive part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that little point at the top of the triangle, self-actualization. But that's all given the proper conditions. So what do those proper conditions look like? Well, let me tell you about how I run my ships. I start from a place of 100% trust. I provide my teams with their areas of responsibility. They have their goals, they have their deadlines. And I assume that they're here for the right reason and that they want to work and that they will do good work. I provide them with space, physical and otherwise. Now, we have an office, yes. You're not physically expected to be there. You can work from the office, you can work from home, you can be in Bermuda with your shorts on for all I care. As long as work is getting done on time and to a high degree of quality, why is there any need for me to actually track your hours? It's dehumanizing, it's degrading. And I believe in co-creation. I believe in building things together. I simply am not going to assign you something and expect you to do it, let alone do a good job. I'd rather invest you emotionally in the process of producing whatever it is that we're producing. And then I believe in leadership. This is something I've resisted for a long time. But my teams have told me time and again, Hamza, we need somebody to be there who's a steward, who's going to guide us, who's going to provide us with insulation from the more harsh realities of the organization and the industry, frankly. And I believe in culture. I believe that people want to show up to a workplace that doesn't feel like a workplace, that feels more like a community, where they can be among friends, where they can bring their whole selves to work, something I've really learned and appreciated with my time at Ryerson SA. And I believe that we should create a workplace that is conducive to doing excellent work. And when all of these proper conditions are met, what happens? We do work that we're proud of. We're more creative. We discover meaning and fulfillment. We strike work-life blend, and I would hope that we ultimately achieve happiness. I'm optimistic about the next generation because not only can we break the cycle, I believe we will break the cycle of doing things the way they've always been done. And it's going to come from understanding a fundamental difference between outcomes and outputs. And this quote in particular reminds me of this. It underscores this idea so well. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry said, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up people to collect wood and don't assign them tasks and work, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. A focus on outcomes versus mere outputs. Now, I managed my first creative team at the age of 21, and this was a particularly challenging team to manage. It was comprised of student staff, and anyone who's managed student staff knows what a Herculean chore it is to get them to part with their time, energy, and attention. They've got so much going on in their lives. The rigors of academia, the trials and tribulations of being a student, family, friends, co-curricular activities, other job opportunities. And if you're not careful about intentionally engaging them, what you get is diminished capacity. And so by design, I had to become the laissez-faire, hands-off manager that I am today. Without any formal training or education, or blueprint for that matter, I deferred to the closest blueprint available to me at the time. The teachings of a man named Sean Carter. Some of you might know him as Jay-Z. I've listened to all of his music. I've read interviews. I've watched interviews. I've read books by him, about him. And I've always been in such awe of the way he's built up Rock Nation, one of the most successful labels of our time. He's a leader who manages other leaders. He manages the likes of Kanye West, Rihanna, J. Cole, the list goes on. And he does so with a distinct focus on individuals. He doesn't just see the sum, he sees individuals. He sees a team of artists. People who are unique, have their own ambitions, who want to succeed on their own terms. And he nourishes that, and he creates an environment that has all of the aforementioned conditions. Like Jay, I work with people who want to make classic albums. I work with people who want to win Grammys. I work with people who want to move the needle forward and push boundaries. I work with people who are genuinely animated by their work. I suppose you could say I started the game on hard mode. One of the first people that I ever had to manage was significantly older than I was, more skilled, and more wise. And naturally, I was intimidated. I was 21 at the time. I could barely manage myself. How was I going to manage this person? And so I managed him the best way that I knew how. I didn't. I told him, you're an adult, and you're perfectly capable of managing yourself. All I can really do is manage your workflow and your priorities. And if you're down with that, we can do some amazing things together. And that gave me the wind in my sails to manage my next creative team. At the age of 24, at Ryerson University, I managed a student team that was significantly larger than my first team. In fact, it was so large, I don't remember a single meeting where we were all physically present. I sometimes had to do the same meeting twice or 3 times, and each time there were disembodied heads around the table, dialing in via FaceTime and Google Hangout. And it was around this time that I really had to embrace the use of technology to foster a sense of community and collaboration. And at 28, nothing has really changed. I'm now managing full-time staff, and I'm managing them the exact same way that I manage my part-time staff, my student staff. It's by recognizing their unique behaviors and expectations, and not just meeting them halfway, meeting them all the way, modifying the way I work to fit them versus the other way around. Now, you're wondering, has it worked? Hamza, this seems too good to be true. It's some sort of utopian workplace. I mean, it's not without its bumps, but yes, it does work. I'm on my 5th creative team now. People that have worked for me, rather with me, have graduated on to work at places that are reputable organizations, large agencies, leading publications, media companies. We've won regional and national awards. And on the agency front, we've worked with clients off the jump that some agencies don't pursue until 4, 5, 10 years down the road. So yes, it does work. But how does it work, Hamza? How did this all happen? Well, with a lot of training, a lot of support, and a lot of guidance from Jigaman. Like Jay, I raised the bar. I believe that if you want to do your best work, if you want your team to do their best work, you have to bring out the best in yourself. To bring out the best in your team, you have to bring out the best in yourself. I don't stand behind my team and say, go. I stand in front of them and say, let's go. I believe that you have to go to bat for your team. When people work with you, they want to know that they're working with somebody that has their back, that's going to go to bat for them no matter what. I provide training and mentorship. I believe that if you're not learning, you're stagnating, and so I'm always on my team's case to develop personally, professionally, and academically. And even if they outgrow my wisdom, and even if they outgrow what it is that I can provide them, I don't get territorial about that. I push them in the right direction. I help them seek other mentors and other opportunities to grow. And I provide them with time, space, and resources. I believe that your best work happens when a manager isn't breathing down your neck. And I provide stretch projects. These are these big, audacious projects that scare you, that push you outside of your comfort zone. And I believe that's where the real growth happens, outside of your comfort zone. That's where the real magic happens. And last but not least, I get out of the way. Once I've empowered and motivated these teams, I take a step back and watch them take flight. And one particular quote from J. Cole about his mentor, Jay-Z, really helps to underscore that. Jay never compromised or interfered with my creative process. There was never a point when he was like, I need to come in and play Big Brother and show you how to do this. He let me figure it out, and it feels better to win like that. Now, I want you all to do something for me. I want you to think about a leader in your life. A manager, a coach, a teacher, a friend, family member, somebody who would call you for advice, somebody who would call you tonight and ask you for a favor. They want your help with a project, a task, something. Would you do it for them? Yes, you would. Would you give them your best effort? Absolutely. In fact, I think you'd go above and beyond the call of duty for them. Why? Because there's something about your relationship with this person that has put you in the right headspace to deliver. Something about them, something about you and them, that has put you in the proper conditions conducive to doing excellent work. And now let's revisit the management paradox one more time. Growing organizations require management, but people don't like to be managed. So I ask, what is the role of management for the next generation? If organizations existed in the execution era to produce goods and to achieve scale, and if they existed in the expertise era to provide advanced services, why do they exist now? Why did they exist in 2015? Why will they continue to exist? I argue that they exist to provide complete and meaningful experiences, not just for the end user, not just for the customers, but for you as well, for me, for the teams. And so I argue that we're in a brand new era altogether, the end of management and a refocus on leadership at every level. And so what is the role of management for the next generation? Absolutely nothing. How are we going to break out of this catch-22? How will we dismantle this paradox? How will we stop doing things the way they've always been done? We're just going to stop managing altogether. And I suppose in this way, yes, I am a horrible boss. I'm a horrible boss because I'm not a boss at all. I'm just a friend. I'm a mentor. I'm a comrade. I'm a resource. I'm a cheerleader, and I'm a coach. And coaches don't play ball. They motivate and empower their teams to win championships, and then they take a step back and watch them do it. And so I challenge each and every one of you, everyone who is privileged enough to manage the next generation, please don't manage. Lead. Because you manage things, and you lead people. Thank you.
Between Omar and the Barksdale organization, if Omar
How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet, they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight, and the Wright brothers beat them to it. There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery. And this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operate in it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You ready to buy a computer from me? All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat-screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat-screen TVs. They've been making flat-screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. And Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain, looking from the top down, what you see is the human brain is actually broken into 3 major components that correlate perfectly with the golden circle. Our newest brain, our Homo sapien brain, our neocortex, corresponds with the what level. The neocortex is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brains, and our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. In other words, when we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. You know, sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures, and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right. Because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart, or you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, those aren't other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do? Again, the goal is not just to sell people who need what you have. The goal is to sell to people who believe what you believe. The goal is not just to hire people who need a job. It's to hire people who believe what you believe. I always say that, you know, there's, if you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they work for you with blood and sweat and tears. And nowhere else is there a better example of this than with the Wright brothers. Most people don't know about Samuel Pierpont Langley. And back in the early 20th century, the pursuit of powered man flight was like the dot-com of the day. Everybody was trying it. And Samuel Pierpont Langley had what we assume to be the recipe for success. I mean, even now, you ask people, why did your product or why did your company fail? And people always give you the same permutation of the same three things. Undercapitalized, the wrong people, bad market conditions. It's always the same three things. So let's explore that. Samuel Pierpont Langley was given $50,000 by the War Department to figure out this flying machine. Money was no problem. He held a seat at Harvard and worked at the Smithsonian and was extremely well connected. He knew all the big minds of the day. He hired the best minds money could find, and the market conditions were fantastic. The New York Times followed him around everywhere, and everyone was rooting for Langley. And how come we've never heard of Samuel Pierpont Langley? A few hundred miles away in Dayton, Ohio, Orville and Wilbur Wright. They had none of what we consider to be the recipe for success. They had no money. They paid for their dream with the proceeds from their bicycle shop. Not a single person on the Wright brothers' team had a college education, not even Orville or Wilbur. And the New York Times followed them around nowhere. The difference was Orville and Wilbur were driven by a cause, by a purpose, by a belief. They believed that if they could figure out this flying machine, it'll change the course of the world. Samuel Pierpont Langley was different. He wanted to be rich, and he wanted to be famous. He was in pursuit of the result. He was in pursuit of the riches. And lo and behold, look what happened. The people who believed in the Wright brothers' dream worked with them with blood and sweat and tears. The others just worked for the paycheck. And they tell stories of how every time the Wright brothers went out, they would have to take 5 sets of parts because that's how many times they would crash before they came in for supper. And eventually, on December 17th, 1903, the Wright brothers took flight. And no one was there to even experience it. We found out about it a few days later. And further proof that Langley was motivated by the wrong thing, the day the Wright brothers took flight, he quit. He could have said, that's an amazing discovery, guys, and I will improve upon your technology. But he didn't. He wasn't first, he didn't get rich, he didn't get famous, so he quit. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And if you talk about what you believe, you will attract those who believe what you believe. Well, why is it important to attract those who believe what you believe? Something called the law of diffusion of innovation. And if you don't know the law, you definitely know the terminology. The first 2.5% of our population are our innovators. The next 13.5% of our population are our early adopters. The next 34% are your early majority, your late majority, and your laggards. The only reason these people buy touch-tone phones is because you can't buy rotary phones anymore. We all sit at various places at various times on the scale, but what the law of diffusion of innovation tells us is that if you want mass market success or mass market acceptance of an idea, you cannot have it until you achieve this tipping point between 15 and 18% market penetration, and then the system tips. And I love asking businesses, what's your conversion on new business? And they love to tell you, oh, it's about 10%, proudly. Well, you can trip over 10% of the customers. We all have about 10% who just get it. That's how we describe them, right? That's like that gut feeling, oh, they just get it. The problem is, how do you find the ones that just get it before you're doing business with them versus the ones who don't get it? So it's this here, this little gap, that you have to close, as Geoffrey Moore calls it, crossing the chasm. Because you see, the early majority will not try something until someone else has tried it first. And these guys, the innovators and the early adopters, they're comfortable making those gut decisions. They're more comfortable making those intuitive decisions that are driven by what they believe about the world, and not just what product is available. These are the people who stood online for 6 hours to buy an iPhone when they first came out, when you could have just walked into the store the next week and bought one off the shelf. These are the people who spent $40,000 on flat-screen TVs when they first came out, even though the technology was substandard. And by the way, they didn't do it because the technology was so great. They did it for themselves. It's because they wanted to be first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. In fact, people will do the things that prove what they believe. The reason that person bought the iPhone in the first 6 hours, or stood in line for 6 hours, was because of what they believed about the world and how they wanted everybody to see them. They were first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So let me give you a famous example, a famous failure and a famous success of the law of diffusion of innovation. First, the famous failure. It's a commercial example. As we said before a second ago, the recipe for success is money and the right people and the right marketing conditions, right? You should have success then. Look at TiVo. From the time TiVo came out about 8 or 9 years ago to this current day, they are the single highest quality product on the market. Hands down, there is no dispute. They were extremely well funded. Market conditions were fantastic. I mean, we use TiVo as a verb. I TiVo stuff on my piece of junk Time Warner DVR all the time. But TiVo is a commercial failure. They've never made money. And when they went IPO, their stock was at about $30 or $40 and then plummeted, and it's never traded above 10. In fact, I don't think it's even traded above 6, except for a couple of little spikes. Because you see, when TiVo launched their product, they told us all what they had. They said, we have a product that pauses live TV, skips commercials, rewinds live TV, and memorizes your viewing habits without you even asking. And the cynical majority said, we don't believe you, we don't need it, we don't like it, you're scaring us. What if they had said, if you're the kind of person who likes to have total control over every aspect of your life, boy, do we have a product for you. It pauses live TV, skips commercials, memorizes your viewing habits, etc., etc. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and what you do simply serves as the proof of what you believe. Now let me give you a successful example of the law of diffusion of innovation. In the summer of 1963, 250,000 people showed up on the Mall in Washington to hear Dr. King speak. They sent out no invitations, and there was no website to check the date. How do you do that? Well, Dr. King wasn't the only man in America who was a great orator. He wasn't the only man in America who suffered in a pre-civil rights America. In fact, some of his ideas were bad, but he had a gift. He didn't go around telling people what needed to change in America. He went around and told people what he believed. I believe, I believe, I believe, he told people. And people who believed what he believed took his cause and they made it their own, and they told people. And some of those people created structures to get the word out to even more people. And lo and behold, 250,000 people showed up on the right day, on the right time to hear him speak. How many of them showed up for him? 0. They showed up for themselves. It's what they believed about America that got them to travel on a bus for 8 hours to stand in the sun in Washington in the middle of August. It's what they believed, and it wasn't about black versus white. 25% of the audience was white. Dr. King believed that there were 2 types of laws in this world, those that are made by a higher authority and those that are made by man. And not until all the laws that are made by man are consistent with the laws that are made by the higher authority will we live in a just world. It just so happens that the civil rights movement was the perfect thing to help him bring his cause to life. We followed him not for him, but for ourselves. And by the way, he gave the I have a dream speech, not the I have a plan speech. Listen to politicians now with their comprehensive 12-point plans. They're not inspiring anybody. Because there are leaders and there are those who lead. Leaders hold a position of power or authority, but those who lead inspire us. Whether they're individuals or organizations, we follow those who lead not because we have to, but because we want to. We follow those who lead not for them, but for ourselves. And it's those who start with why that have the ability to inspire those around them or find others who inspire them. Thank you very much.
So money doesn't bring you happiness. It's never made me happy. I don't measure happy. What do you measure?
Only a small slice of salespeople are actually considered true trusted advisors. 63% of salespeople, the data shows us, are behaving in ways that are actually, in some cases, driving down performance. On the other hand, selling is still very, very critical. In fact, the data shows that about 50% of customer loyalty is based purely on that relationship with the salesperson. My goal is twofold. One is that you walk away with some new mindsets towards selling in this very new economy. And then on the other hand, is that you walk away with some really usable, tangible ideas that you can apply right into your sales. People always come up to me after this program and they say, Mark, this is great, but what would you say is really the key to success in selling? And I'm always brought back to a quote by J. Paul Getty. And he famously said that the formula for success is to rise early, work hard, and strike right. Tongue in cheek, but I actually think it's a really powerful quote when we think about the level of mystification about what leads to success in sales. And then suddenly we connect. Now I have no idea what happened next, but when I woke up, I'm told that it looked something like this. This was my first experience. Now the science tells us that the lower person wins in football every single time. Every single time the lower person wins. What Bill was telling me, unfortunately, was just misinformation. And what I find is that we salespeople are dealing with a lot of that same information where we've gotten books and we read blogs or wherever we're getting sales ideas, or maybe we followed around someone who's been selling in a certain way. And the reality is that so much of the information in sales out there, unfortunately, is dated. When I first started to sell, these were some of the books that I went to. At the time, they seemed amazing. But there are 2 key challenges to these books, which I would consider really the foundation of traditional selling. One is that it is essentially all opinion, and there's very little data to support most of the assertions that are in books like this. And the second, which is just as important, which is that the average copyright of these particular books is 1980. And the only reason, by the way, that it is so recent is because one of the books is relatively newer. By show of hands, who would like the ultimate two-step process to making sure that a prospect or customer never wants to hear from you again? The two-step process is simply this. It is to be sure that you come in with lots of enthusiasm when you go in and you meet with that customer. And then secondly, is that you pitch the hell out of them. You talk about all the great features and benefits of your service or your offering or your products and how it's so much better than the competition. The best reps are getting significantly better, and that trend is only accelerating. It's literally hockey sticking. So what are those top reps doing that is allowing them to have such a bigger access to all of the spoils, while the average sales rep is actually declining? Most of us have been taught that we need to persuade, or we need to convince people to do business with us. I would argue that we don't even need to qualify, we need to disqualify people. Because the reality is that at least half of the people that you come across are not going to be a fit for business with you. Rob, let me tell you the top 3 reasons why I think that you absolutely must work with me. We are doing what to that prospect? We are putting what onto them? Pressure. And immediately they're going to feel that pressure and they're going to want to do what? Push back. Hence the traditional idea of objection overcoming. We've all heard this idea of you've got to overcome objections. We don't have to overcome objections. What we want to do is avoid those objections in the first place by asking really good questions to understand what they're looking for, provide a solution that's exactly what they basically said they need, and then say, so, what would you like to do next? If you've done a good job, there are no objections back and forth. There is no arm wrestling. I want you to imagine, please do not say the name of the organization out loud, but just think of one of your absolute worst competitors. I mean, I'm talking about these people, they just do a terrible job. They say they're going to do one thing, they do something else. Service is a disaster. Every industry has this person. Please don't say it out loud. Do you think when the salesperson for that organization gets asked by a prospective customer, why should we do business with you? They're saying, oh, by the way, about our service, not very good. No, of course not. That's ludicrous, right? They're saying we got the best service. Not only do we have the best service, but we have the best prices. The data again shows that top performing salespeople are asking about twice as many business-related questions as average performers. Almost twice as many, 10.1 to 6.3. That is a profound slide. Profound, because again, we're not talking about top performers versus people that are failing. We're talking about top performers versus people that are making a living selling. And those top performers, those people that are at the high end of that curve who are crushing it right now, are finding out the big picture questions. Does that make sense? The big picture questions are what makes us money. That's what creates value. That's something that machines are not going to be able to replace us for a very, very long time. The top salespeople spend the majority of their time in front of qualified prospects. And the only way that's possible is that when they come across someone who they determine is not qualified, what do? They move on.
Why should I do business with you?
You know what, Hal? I really appreciate your asking me that question. And quite frankly, at this point in the conversation, I'm not sure that you should. Would it be okay if I just ask some questions to see if we are in fact a fit? Sure, right? 100% of the time he's going to say, of course. Now, what did I just do in that situation? He expected me to put pressure on him. What did I do instead? I took the pressure off, which is, by the way, completely legitimate. I do not know if I am the right fit for him. I don't. I don't know if he has the issues or concerns that I solve. I don't know if he's looking for the particular technology that I might offer. I don't know if he has got money. I don't know anything until I actually know those questions. No buying decision is made purely logically. Buying decisions are always made based on emotion. Do I feel like this person gets me? Do I trust this person? Do I think that they have my best interests at heart? These are not things that you can tell them to do. You can't say, oh, you can trust me. You can't say, oh, we're going to be there for you. Right? You have to convey that through the quality of your conversations. There are going to be dinosaurs in your industry that won't be here, and I don't mean companies, I mean salespeople, that won't be here 5 years from now. Not just at this meeting, but in your industry. Don't be that dinosaur. take action with some of these ideas. There are two categories of people in sales. There are those that talk a big game, and there are those who play a big game. And every single day, it is on us to decide which category we want to be in.
I was in my comfort zone. I was doing just enough to get by. I was working on a job. They paid me just enough to keep me from quitting, and I worked just hard enough to keep from getting fired. How many know people like that? Blink your eyes if you understand what I'm talking about. I was parked. I knew I could do more. But when my mama died, it took something out of me. When I went through a divorce, it took something out of me. When my best friend died, it took something out of me.
I started out.
I was in my comfort zone. I was doing
Market. This was a marketing agency. I was doing graphic design. I saw what was happening. I was being sacrificed at the altar of office discipline. So I asked a rhetorical question. Did something happen that I should know about? And of course, I knew nothing had happened. I'd been on Twitter all morning, and I looked at the trending topics, and the only thing newsworthy was Kanye West and Kim Kardashian attending a Jay-Z concert the night before. And that's when my boss hit me with this. Hamza, you being late is bad for morale. It looks like you are.
Do you remember when 20,000 people walked out of Google in protest of unfair and unequal treatment of women at the company? On a single day? The protest was dramatic. It was headline grabbing. It sent a clear signal. We will no longer check our identities and our values at the workplace door. It was also the exception rather than the rule. Because while brave, certainly
that organizations want to know is, how do I engage my workforce? How do we engage the employees that work for us? And so if we're going to think about how do we engage our workforce, we need to understand and get underneath the hood of what drives human behavior in the workplace. Why do people do what they do when they come to work? Wouldn't we all like to know that? Well, in our studies, we've had a central focus on motivation. We have found that motivation is key to success. So not only can we measure motivation, but we have found that there are 4 motivations that contribute to success. But in order to understand motivation, we have to understand that there's some myths around motivation. So let's dive in to the science behind what drives motivation. So one of the myths is motivation is just about energy. Motivation is the intensity that I bring to the job. Motivation is my ability to get up and come to work and just give 120%. So is that the whole story? Well, it's part of the story. The other side of the story is, yeah, it's about energy, it's about quantity, but it's also about quality. So let's think about the employee who is motivated very productively. They do a lot of activities at their work that causes them to bring positive outcomes in their day. So if they are a sales rep, they're generating leads, they're following up on those leads, they're closing deals, they're generating revenue for the company. Those are all positive motivations. However, some people also bring to the table negative motivations. And we all have a combination of each, both positive
You're a sales guy. You know, you've been listening to me for a while now about sales.
I don't think you can motivate the unmotivated. I don't think you can motivate people. People either are motivated or unmotivated. I think you can inspire people, and you know, you can motivate people with sticks and carrots. You know, offer them bounty or threaten punishment, and you'll get behavior that you want. Is there loyalty? Is there love? Absolutely not. Usually, when people are unmotivated, it's not necessarily them. It might be the situation they're in. Maybe they don't belong in the culture. Maybe they feel unseen or unheard. Maybe they're scared. Maybe they're unprepared. So we have to, you know, when somebody's unmotivated, let's not label them as unmotivated first. What are the 20 other things that it could also be? Let's start there. Now, are there some people in the world who are unmotivated? Absolutely. You hired them, which means you bear some responsibility if it's time to transition them, to help them find another place where they're going to be a better fit. We can't yell at them and call them stupid and unmotivated and push them out the door. We have to bear some of the responsibility. We hired them. And if we made a mistake and hired somebody who's a bad cultural fit, some responsibility if it's time to transition them, to help them find another place where they're going to be a better fit. We can't yell at them and call them stupid and unmotivated and push them out the door. We have to bear some of the responsibility. We hired them. And if we made a mistake and hired somebody who's a bad cultural fit, then we have to take care of them and help them transition to somewhere where they're going to be a better fit. I think that you know, if we only focus on motivating people, and that's a factor, then you're only going to get very finite thinking. An excessive amount of motivating things, like hit this number, get this bonus, you'll get a motivated employee pool that doesn't care about each other, might stab each other in the back, and eventually will take a better job somewhere else. We have to inspire people. We have to give them that sense of cause and vision that their work is worth more. We have to make them feel like they matter and feel like they're seen and heard and understood. And what ends up happening is those people are not only more motivated and inspired, but if they're offered a better, higher paying job somewhere else, they turn it down, because it's not just about the bonuses and the money. It's because they would rather be here with these wonderful people.
All the great leaders, political or business leaders, think, act, and communicate the complete opposite of the rest of us. Where so many of us start by telling people what we do, they start with why. But let me give you a funny example that makes the case perfectly. Dating. Dating is like any kind of sales call. We're sitting across a table from somebody. We want to say things that make them choose us over somebody else. And imagine if we sent somebody out on a date and they started with what rather than why. So let's take our theoretical dater. Let's call him Davido. Davido is on a date with a young woman that his friends set him up with. And this is how the date begins. He sits across from her, and the first words he says, "You know, I'm very, very rich. I know lots of famous people. I'm on television all the time, which is good because I'm good looking. And I have a beautiful
The Navy SEALs are one of the highest performing organizations on the planet, and a former Navy SEAL was asked, who makes it through BUDS? Who makes it through the selection process to become a SEAL? And he said, I can't tell you who gets through, who makes it, but I can tell you the kind of people who don't make it. He said the star college athletes that never have been really tested to the core of their being, none of them make it through. He said the preening leaders who like to delegate everything, none of them make it through. He said the big tough guys that come in with huge muscles, covered in tattoos, who want to prove to everyone how tough they are, none of them make it through. He said some of the guys that make it through are skinny and scrawny. He said some of the guys who make it through, you will see them shivering out of fear. He said, but every single one of them who makes it through, when they're emotionally exhausted, when they're physically exhausted, some way, somehow, they're able to dig down deep inside themselves to find the energy to help the person next to them. Service. Service. Giving to another, having their back, is what makes the highest performing teams in the world. Not their strength and not their intelligence. It's their willingness to be there for each other. Plus, I just think this is really interesting. So, I've worked with the Navy SEALs, and I asked them, like, how do you pick like the guys that go on SEAL Team 6, right? Because they're the best of the best of the best of the best. And they drew a graph for me, and on one side they wrote the word performance, and on the other side they wrote the word trust. The way they define the terms is performance on the battlefield and performance off the battlefield. So this is your skills. This is, did you make your quarterly earnings, whatever, however you want to translate it, right? Performance, it's traditional. This is, how are you off the battlefield? What kind of person are you? The way they put it is, I may trust you with my life, but do I trust you with my money and my wife? They're SEALs. This is what they told me. Nobody wants this person, the low performer of low trust, of course. Of course, everybody wants this person, the high performer of high trust, of course. What they learned is that this person, the high performer of low trust, is a toxic leader and a toxic team member. And they would rather have a medium performer of high trust, sometimes even a low performer of high trust, it's a relative scale, over this person. This is the highest performing organization on the planet, and this person is more important than this person. And the problem in business is we have lopsided metrics. We have 1,000,001 metrics to measure someone's performance and negligible to no metrics to measure someone's trustworthiness. And so what we end up doing is promoting or bonusing toxicity in our businesses, which is bad for the long game because it eventually destroys the whole organization. The irony is it's unbelievably easy to find these people. Go to any team and say, who's the asshole? And they'll... they will all point to the same person. Equally, if you go to any team and say, who do you trust more than anybody else? Who's always got your back? And when the chips are down, they will be there with you. They will also all point to the same person. It's the best gifted natural leader who's creating an environment for everybody else to succeed, and they may not be your most individual highest performer. But that person, you better keep them on your team.
The orders are a perfect 4-0.
One more item for you when you get a chance. We'd like it to stir up your cryo tanks.
How good can a team be? Seriously, how powerful is teamwork? Great teamwork. I mean, really ask that question. Who defines the limit? And what if we were to push that edge? Stop to think about this for a moment and realize that every team that accomplished the untouchable, every team that got out there, every team that had done what had never been done before, they all had to break through. They all had to understand that there was this edge. And then they had to challenge the edge. And then they had to break through that invisible line. They all had to do it.
Through that group of incredibly talented people, bumping up against each other, having arguments, having fights sometimes, making some noise. And working together, they polish each other. And they polish the ideas, and what comes out are these really beautiful stones.
There's no other way to get through other than challenging your fears. Because in order for teamwork to be at its highest potential, everyone's got to have something on the line. You have to. Otherwise, you're only partway in. At the end of the day, you're going to need to trust those around you. To fully trust. This is about us. And you can count on me. I think about New Zealand, this country with under 5 million people. And they have the best rugby team in the world, the All Blacks. Consistently the best in the world. Or the Apollo mission. A group of people saying, we hear you, we've got you. And all of our talents are on the line to get you home. That's teamwork. Think about the Beatles. All of that music that we know of theirs, all of it, was made in about 8 years. Just 8 years. They were that incredible as a team. Great teams, I mean, they're not about individuals melting into the team. That's the mistake. People hear about the power of teamwork, and they think it's about losing yourself to the singular goal. They think it's about fully giving in to something bigger than you. You don't lose yourself. Great teammates, they don't lose themselves. They stand up. They say, I'm here. They choose to be in, and they choose to play their unique part. That's how it works. So then what's the breakthrough? What did those teams see to unlock the full power of teamwork? You know, that's the hard part. You can't see the edge. You actually don't know where it is until you cross over and look back and see where it was. That's why it's always easier. I mean, it's always easier to catch up than it is to raise the bar. Because the team that broke through, they marked the line. And now everyone else, they just need to get over that mark. The Patriots, Belichick, Brady, I mean, what they've been doing is so unbelievable because they keep raising the bar. They keep nudging it higher. So even if people catch up, it's too late. You know, Steve Jobs and Apple.
For the first time ever, I'd like to let Macintosh speak for itself.
They were operating in this abyss. I mean, they were out there in this vast unknown. So instead of breaking through, instead of seeing the line, you have to forget the line. It's just another limit. The marker in great teams is never external. Because you're out in this unknown. You're out in this unmapped territory. So instead, the power of teamwork comes from a belief. It comes from a mindset. We can't get satisfied by the breakthroughs. We can celebrate them. We should celebrate them, but we can't be satisfied by the limits. That's what humbles me the most about great teams. That's what humbles me the most about the power of teamwork. Because it's almost like you've got to operate in the darkness, knowing you're lighting the path for everyone else, and still heading out there, still pushing that edge. That's how to unlock the power of teamwork.
To copy at the point. And on the board, take There's the presentation to Wayne Gretzky, the young Edmonton captain.
My team's not hitting targets. What do I do? Well, that's a question I got asked the other day from a sales leader I work with. And she tells me the team isn't making as many calls as they need to, and they're not as responsive to new inquiries as they need to be. So I told her something simple. You need to start by setting goals. Now, many of the teams I work with have monthly, quarterly, or yearly sales targets, but not all of them have specific targets around output, as in, what do they need to do to actually achieve their targets? So I recommend setting monthly.
The metrics that we have are not wrong. They're just incomplete, right? The standard metrics that we have to measure our own success in our companies, profits and revenues, EBITDA, whatever you want to use, and the standard metrics we use to measure our own wealth, there's nothing wrong with those. They're just incomplete. That's like saying, you know, when I chose to marry her, she's really good looking. Important. And is she a good person? Does she bring the best out in me? You know? How is she in times of stress? Like, will she look after me? Will I look after her? Will she let me help her? You know? In other words, there's more to it, and it's the same for businesses. So what I'm learning to do is to understand those balancing metrics. So I'm now very interested in things like momentum, right? Where I want to measure momentum as much as I want to measure accomplishment or sheer numbers. So, for example, the traditional way in which we measure, this is really funny. This is an inside joke you won't get. Can I have that pad, if you still have it back there, please? Or not, never mind. There was a whole debate before, I don't need the pad, I don't need the pad. And they said, well, keep it here in case you need it. I'm like, no, I don't need it. No, I need it. Anyway, I'll just do a visual thing. So the way we traditionally measure success is we give someone a goal, right? We say, meet this financial goal. And then what we do is, you're the best. So here's what we do. We give somebody a financial goal. We say, hit that goal, right? And what we do is we don't know how they got there, right? They beg, borrow, and steal. The morale on their team is, if they're doing well, it's high. When they're doing badly, it's really low. They can't hold on to employees or team members. They keep quitting or getting fired. And it's kind of a mad dash. And then on the right day, on the right time, they hit the goal, and we give that person a bonus. There's another person who's building a team. Morale is really good all the time, whether it's good times or bad. Performance is not crazy highs or lows. It's just the steady growth. The team gets along great, and at the end of the financial year, that's where they end up and they miss their goal. We don't give that person a bonus. And so what I'm starting to pay attention to is momentum, right? And how we got somewhere. Clearly, this person's going to hit their goal in 16 months or 17 months. But to the rest of the organization, we told them, don't do this. We told the rest of the organization, do this. So what ends up happening is we are incentivizing behavior that's actually bad for the organization and bad for the team, because we make this the end-all be-all. So what I'm considering is not just were they able to hit the goal, but how's the momentum? And in reality, I want not to give this person a bonus, and I want to give this person a bonus because whatever they're doing, I want them to do more of that, because in long term, this is way more valuable to my company than this. And it's same with my own life. Like, I'm starting to think in terms of momentum. So I don't really care what my book sales are. I genuinely don't care. What I care about, does it keep selling? Because what that means is my message is relevant enough that there's still demand for it with no marketing. I'm not out there hawking it, because I know if I turn up the marketing dial, I'll see the numbers go up. I want to see, can it sustain itself? So unlike a lot of other people in my business, you can become an Amazon #1 bestseller. It's really easy. You get all of your friends to buy the book in the same hour, because the algorithm recalculates every hour. And you can launch your own little self-published book, get all your friends to buy it, and in your category, you'll be #1. And for the rest of your life, you're a #1 Amazon bestseller. You can hire a company to make you a New York Times bestseller. And you only need to make the New York Times bestseller list once, 1 week, and for the rest of your life, you're a New York Times bestselling author. It's all bullshit. Or get all your friends to give you 5 stars on Amazon. You got a 5-star book and you sell 1 book a year. I don't ask any friends to write any Amazon reviews for me. I don't ask anybody to buy a book at a certain time. I've never hired a company to make me a New York Times bestseller. And the reason is because I actually want to know. I actually want to know, is it really a 4.5-star book? Is it really a 2.5-star book? Have I offered the world something of value? I actually want to read the valuable criticisms. Because I actually care about my long game. I want to know that the value that I'm providing can sustain without me pushing it. So in my own personal life and in my business, I'm looking for new ways to understand and measure momentum. And I'll add one other thing, because I can't help myself. I give long answers. Plus, I just think this is really interesting. So I've worked with the Navy SEALs. And I asked them, like, how do you pick like the guys that go on SEAL Team 6? Right? Because they're the best of the best, the best, the best. And they drew a graph for me. And on one side, they wrote the word performance, and on the other side, they wrote the word trust. The way they define the terms is performance on the battlefield and performance off the battlefield. So this is your skills. This is, did you make your quarterly earnings, however you want to translate it, right? Performance, it's traditional. This is, how are you off the battlefield? What kind of person are you? The way they put it is, I may trust you with my life, but do I trust you with my money and my wife? They're SEALs. This is what they told me. Nobody wants this person, the low performer of low trust, of course. Of course, everybody wants this person, the high performer of high trust, of course. What they learned is that this person, the high performer of low trust, is a toxic leader and a toxic team member. And they would rather have a medium performer of high trust, sometimes even a low performer of high trust, it's a relative scale, over this person. This is the highest performing organization on the planet, and this person is more important than this person. And the problem in business is we have lopsided metrics. We have 1,000,001 metrics to measure someone's performance and negligible to no metrics to measure someone's trustworthiness. And so what we end up doing is promoting or bonusing toxicity in our businesses, which is bad for the long game because it eventually destroys the whole organization. The irony is it's unbelievably easy to find these people. Go to any team and say,
all the great leaders, everybody from Martin Luther King to Steve Jobs, every single one of them, those with the capacity to inspire, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to the rest of us. Where the rest of us start with what we do, these great leaders, those with the capacity to inspire and lead great change, all of them always start with why they do what they do. Great leaders are able to paint a picture of a future state that does not yet exist, a world that does not yet exist, in words so clear that we can imagine it ourselves. And if we're driven by that cause, we want to commit ourselves to help build that world. We can imagine that, we can see it, we can paint that picture in our own minds. And if that's the world we want to live in, we will raise our hands and volunteer and commit to help to build it. It doesn't have to be a social movement, but great leaders, even in business, act like social movements. They give us something to believe in, they give us a future state that does not yet exist, and offer us the opportunity to contribute our hard work, our blood, sweat, and tears to help build that world. They serve as a compass. That's what they do. Every single organization on the planet, even our own careers, always function on 3 levels: what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. What we do are the products we make, the services we offer, the things we sell, you know? How we do it are those, whether you call it your unique selling proposition or your proprietary process or whatever you want to call it. It's the things that you think make you different or special or stand out from the crowd. But it's this concept of why we do what we do, this purpose, cause, or belief that drives every one of us, why the company exists in the first place. We don't need another one of whatever you're selling. You know, there's plenty, you know, but why do we need you? You know? And it's not because of how you do it differently or what you do. There's something deeper there. It was the very reason why the company was formed. When organizations start with why, the response they will get from people who believe what they believe will be visceral. It will be deeply personal and in the emotional part of the brain. It will be hard for people to explain why they are so drawn to Southwest Airlines or Harley Davidson or Apple. They'll talk about, oh, it's the design, it's the quality, it's the service. But in the reality, It's deeper than that. It's in the part of the brain that controls behavior, but not language. The best they can sum up is, I don't know, I just love it. But the reality is, it actually is one of the things that helps them define who they are. Apple is able to inspire loyalty amongst customers and employees, and shareholders for that matter, because the way they view themselves is different than the way most other computer companies view themselves. Most other computer companies define themselves by what they do. They make computers, and everything they try to do is in an effort to improve upon that thing. Add more RAM, add more speed, make it blue, you know? Apple defines themselves by why they exist, to challenge the status quo. You know, power to the individual, think different. And everything they say and everything they do is to advance that idea. There was mass spontaneous mourning when Steve Jobs died. He's just a CEO of a company. He's a multi-billionaire who flies around in corporate jets. I mean, he's more like the rest of them than he is like us. And yet, we mourned his loss. Fundamentally, what a leader is supposed to do is offer a vision to the people who choose to join and offer them protection. And when people feel that their leaders have their interest in mind, they are rewarded with loyalty, love, innovation, ideas, progress. That's the thing I'm grappling with now, which is how do we create that movement so that management and leaders will create environments in which we come to work, we feel safe, we feel loved, we feel protected, we naturally cooperate as a result, we naturally trust each other as a result, we're committed to working harder, giving loyalty, sharing ideas, driving innovation. All we want to do is contribute. And so how do we create those environments in which we naturally work at our best? That would change our world.
Sometimes easy meets difficult. Have you ever been assigned an easy task which for you is actually very difficult to perform, and maybe for anybody else? And that is when you experience frustration. I have experienced that when I started taking
So listening is not the act of hearing the words spoken. It is the art of understanding the meaning behind those words. You know, when people say, you're not listening to me, and we simply parrot back the words that they were said, congratulations, your ears work. You know, that is the act of listening. But the art of listening is creating an environment in which the other person feels heard. Now, you notice what I said there. The other person, and I used an emotional word, feels, right? I don't want to know that you heard the words. I want to feel heard. I want to feel seen. I want to feel understood. And that is a learnable, practicable skill. So it's there are many parts of it. It's things like replacing judgment with curiosity, right? That's a hard thing to do. We're a pretty judgy group, right? To be curious why someone has a point of view. It's creating a safe space for someone to, as my friend Dia Khan calls it, empty the bucket. So even if we find what they're saying just reprehensible, right? You're never going to be able to actually have dialogue until at least one of the parties gets the opportunity to say everything without judgment. And as she calls it, emptying the bucket. And once somebody feels like they've completely said everything, then they're more apt to listen to you. But usually what we do is we defend, or we litigate, or we interrupt. We point out flaws in logic, which is just frustrating. And when you point out some flaws in somebody's logic, because we're all imperfect when we speak, and we all choose the wrong words at various times. And that's not what I meant. You know what I meant is what we have to say. Well, what if you know what you meant? Then why don't you say what you can see how this spirals. But it's things like when somebody says something, you know, and there's really easy ways to do it. Things like, go on, tell me more. What else? And they keep talking. And you go quiet, they feel the space. And tell me more. Go on. And eventually, it's all out. And then there's a safe space for you to respond and express yourself in a constructive way. But that's correct. We do not teach listening, and listening is the way to create to build trust with someone. You know, you make someone feel heard, they'll trust you. You know, it is the way to find common ground in opposition. in simple cases in business, but in more complicated cases in national politics or in global politics or in war. You know, why do, you know, William Ury, who wrote Getting to Yes, he talks about the same thing. He goes, we have talk shows, but we don't have listen shows. He says we have peace talks, but what we really need is peace listens, you know? And he, who's been at the table at the highest levels of peace negotiations, he said, people show up and start demanding what they want, and that's how the negotiations begin. Nobody starts by saying, so tell me why you came here. There's a great documentary that I recommend to learn this. It's called White Right, Meeting the Enemy by Dia Khan. In a nutshell, Dia is a Muslim woman living in the UK who was trolled by white supremacists to the point where the police got involved because her life was at risk. They told her stay away from open windows. That's how bad it got. The way Dia responded was by moving to the United States and going to meet the white supremacists. And she brought her cameras. I mean, you can see it all happen in this documentary. And basically, she gave them a safe space to feel heard. Now, that sounds mad. Like, why should she give them a safe space to feel heard? They should give her a safe space. Yeah, fine, good. You know, like, it's never going to happen. Dia sits down with these white supremacists, and she gives them a safe space to feel heard. It's extreme listening. And I say it's extreme because, I mean, they hate her, you know? They don't just disagree with her. They want her off the planet. And she lets them empty their bucket, as she calls it. And then conversation begins. And because they feel heard, they start to trust her. And as they start to trust her, she becomes a friend. And then it creates this paradox where I'm supposed to hate this woman, but I trust her and consider her a friend. And what you see is one by one, these white supremacists, these diehard white supremacists, start dropping out of the movement because they can no longer reconcile their beliefs with reality. And if it can happen in this extreme environment, then it can happen anywhere. And all that is required for us to cross political divides or, you know, disagreements at work and things like that is one of the parties has to learn how to listen. It doesn't even require both parties to learn the skill. That's the amazing thing. And it is one of the most remarkable skills that anyone can learn, the power of listening, yeah. So the documentary is a great extreme example of what it can do.
No, I have never coached the sport that you folks call football. Heck, you could fill 2 internets with what I don't know about football. But I'll tell you what I do know. I know that AFC Richmond, like any team I've ever coached, is going to go out there and give you everything they got for all 4 quarters. What was that? I do love a locker room. Oh, man. To believe in yourself, to believe in one another, man, that's fundamental to being alive.
And I'm gonna say this again, just so you didn't think it was a mistake the first time I said it. For me, success is not about the wins and losses. It's about helping these young fellas be the best versions of themselves, on and off the field.
To the family we're born with, and to the family we make along the way.
How many of them came?
All of them.
All right, see what you got, young lady. Come on. What do you got? What do you got? Whoa! Are you kidding me? You see that?
Barbecue sauce.
So I've been hearing this phrase y'all got over here that I ain't too crazy about. It's the hope that kills you. I disagree. I think it's the lack of hope that comes and gets you. See, I believe in hope. I believe in belief. Now, where I'm from, we got a saying too. Yeah? Question, actually. Do you believe in miracles?
The character Ted Lasso is probably most well known for his wildly positive attitude.
Biscuits with the boss time! Who? What? Ed Higgins, hey!
Three's a crowd.
Hey, that's a crowd I don't mind being smack dab in the middle of, buddy.
This is an awesome trait that we may cover in a future video, but in today's video, we're actually going to dive into leadership.
No, I have never coached the sport that you folks call football. Heck, you could fill 2 internets with what I don't know about football. But I'll tell you what I do know. I know that AFC Richmond, like any team I've ever coached, is going to go out there and give you everything they got for all 4 quarters.
What was that?
I do love a locker room.